Week 16. We're here. One more week. I'm not including the weirdos that are playing Week 18 championships. I don't know why y'all doing that. We will be doing the shows for that, but I'm just saying, like, make it Week 17 because it's already chaos. Straight chaos in the streets. We're missing like 8 quarterbacks this week or something, just shenanigans going on. But if you're here, more than likely you won your week because hey, if you didn't win your week, or maybe you're just a dynasty degenerate like none of us, you want to see players available. So I get it. It is myself. Hashtag playoff chaos. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And Jeremy Schulman, hashtag DC. Are you kidding me? That's a pretty good one. Pretty good. How you doing today, Jeremy?
Yeah, better before the benching of all of these quarterbacks, eliminating the usefulness of about a third of my playoff rosters across the board. But we'll get into all that. We'll get into guys who we can replace those guys with, like Elijah Moore. Nope, not a thing anymore. It's going to be a problem. Calvin Ridley, I'm concerned. Nick Westbrook-Ikini, no chance.
Yes,
it's a problem, but we'll see. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, why we're going to do quarterbacks first is because of the impact they have on the rest of the skill position players, and particularly these offenses where, like, we'll talk about Kendrick Miller, but that offense is projected for 14 points, folks. That's bare bones. That's as low as projections you can get. We saw the Giants last week. They had like this projection, and they were abysmal on offense. They did basically nothing the entire game, so that's just an issue, right? So let's talk about these five quarterbacks. If I can find a wide receiver show, there it is, wide receiver rankings and quarterbacks. All right, so let's talk about the guys that are potentially out first. This involves Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. So that means Carson Wentz is starting. Carson Wentz is the mobile quarterback. As a decent match, you can do that. And I'm not super excited about Carson Wentz, but you do that. There's also Geno Smith, another guy. This is in Seattle. Sam Howell is super mobile, but he is a freaking sack machine. So you have that whole situation going on there. That's going to hurt that offense as well. We have Jameis Winston getting benched in Cleveland. And oh my gosh, have you seen Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. Like the worst. Like, all of his metrics are like worse than Deshaun Watson. Yeah, it's real bad. Like we're talking about quarterback play. There's just shenanigans going on. Will Levis is getting benched in Tennessee. In comes Mason Rudolph potentially, or Duck Hodges, whoever they want to start. Like, good luck with that. So that's 4 out the gate on top of that. Yeah,
I got one more. We're at the stage where we are praying that Aiden O'Connell will be ready for this week. Yes. So it's his head coach. Well, we don't know. At least news dropped about 15 minutes ago that he's hoping Aiden O'Connell can return. Obviously, because if you're rolling out Desmond Ridder, oh my God, it's just as bad, if not worse. So I paused when you said DTR might be the worst starting quarterback in the league. We still got Desmond Ridder potentially starting next week. We still got some guy named Tim Boyle potentially starting next week. It's a gigantic mess across the league, especially for these teams that are trying to tank for draft picks at this stage.
Yeah, I will say Trevor Forrest Njoku is the one guy that can survive this whole situation. If you look at his stats with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's been usable. So, like, the rest of the guys I don't have faith in. The nice thing about Njoku, it's close to the vest and short passes, all that fun stuff, right? The ceiling is kind of removed, but he can still get a decent amount of targets. He's done that earlier in the season with Dorian Thompson-Robinson than last year before. So he's the one guy I feel okay about. But yeah, I'm not like Njoku top 3 tight end anymore. Like, I don't think that's in the range of outcomes. So
if he plays, Jesse.
Yeah, there's also that issue too. So it's just like, man, like, yeah, you can tell this is straight chaos in the streets because there's so much is going on this week. That's not to mention we're going to get a championship week next week, and there's going to be more chaos to top it. So if you have made it this far, congrats, you have earned your place. You have survived the chaos. A few of us had some, heartbreaking losses. We've had some close wins. If you're in enough leagues, it's bound to happen. I forgot to put Lavin Conkey back in the lineup. That cost me because I went with Sincere McCormack, got me 4 points, and I lost by 1 point due to an injury, and I was like, mother of yeah. So yeah, still smarting over that one, but has some good wins. Now we get the bye week teams coming in, so yeah, it's gonna be fun this week. I am excited, also kind of terrified, a little bit nervous. Jeremy, how are all your teams looking right now?
Yeah, they're okay. Had a handful of buys, had a handful of teams move on to the next round. So I'm about 30% in the semis, which feels good. And a lot of those teams feel pretty good at the moment. The problem is, of course, that it's the damn fantasy playoffs, man. We just don't know what's going to happen. I was all in on Amari Cooper last week. I benched Mike Evans for him. That's a 32-point swang, but I lost by 30 4 points. So it didn't matter in the end, and probably better to get blown out than to lose by 2. On the same token, in another league, I needed Drake London and Justin Jefferson under 40 points. I think they got to about 37 points. So we got there in another league, thankfully, where I benched Jeremy Chin, who went off for like 26 points. So
yeah,
hey, you live and die by the matchups and by the benchings in the fantasy playoffs. Just is what it is.
All right, let's jump into some of these quarterbacks. I think the most like guy's name that's the biggest name on the board is Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the few quarterbacks on Sleeper that's under 50%, so he hits the threshold. You could do Rodgers this week. I mean, their offense has really run through Rodgers in that passing game. They get the Rams this week. Rams are a havable defense. And you've seen kind of since the bye, they've thrown it a ton. Last week against Jacksonville, they got a big lead. They were super efficient. He had 3 touchdowns, 289 yards. The weird thing is he had 6 rushing attempts for 45 yards. I don't know where the hell that came from. That's the craziest thing of all time. Like Aaron Rodgers is just moving around off of his broken Achilles. Like somehow he's back in life. I don't know. The Rams defense is not a great matchup. It's not the worst. It's just like a solid matchup where as long as they don't pressure him much time, which the Rams get a decent amount of pressure. So if he can stay upright and healthy, I think he's fine. A couple other guys that will be usable is Cooper Rush is going up against Tampa Bay. I know Tampa Bay did really well against the Chargers. I'm not 100% convinced that's a thing that stays sustainable for them. Cooper Rush is another mobile quarterback who's been productive for you. Like last week against Carolina, he had 19. He's had 17 against Washington. I think he has a good matchup. So if you need a guy against this week against Tampa Bay, you're going to stream him. You're not going to touch him against Philadelphia. That's a nightmare scenario. But you could do Tampa Bay. The Bryce Young thing's Arizona. I don't really want to play Bryce Young personally, so I'm moving away from him. Mac Jones gets Las Vegas, and you might be asking yourself, are we doing Mac Jones? I don't mind doing Mac Jones. I mean, last week he was pretty solid against the Jets. 2 weeks ago against Houston, he did a thing. I think, he's like we talked about, passing it a ton. He'll do that for you. And then outside of that, you're really just scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like you could do the New York Giants starting quarterback. I don't want to do that. Like, no, thank you. Stafford's just above the 50% threshold, so I'll say if Stafford's available, you could do him. Other quarterbacks available, is there anyone that stands out to you, or are you kind of just seeing what you can get and rolling with it?
Well, real quick, Stafford against the Jets is really interesting because Mac Jones was the one who dominated the Jets last week, 31 of 46, 294, and two interceptions, of course, but he was slinging it. But no, Mac Jones is the guy that I prefer over every single name that you mentioned. That's not Aaron Rodgers, only because I feel like Rodgers just has that veteran safety. He's obviously clicking with Devontae Adams, and Garrett Wilson is certainly capable. The Jets offense and defense is coming to life a little bit here. But against the Raiders, Mac Jones has an even better matchup than he did last week. He's clicking with his weapons. They've kind of figured something out. Just let him throw it a ton. The only problem with Mac Jones is that Vegas is not going to put up any points in this game. So because that Jags defense has been better the last month or so. So it's really tough. I'd say Aaron Rodgers 1. Obviously Matthew Stafford 1. Aaron Rodgers 1B, and then Mac Jones a distant 2, but miles ahead of anybody else. Cooper Rush probably 3.
Yeah, like I think another guy that we'll throw in there is Carson Wentz, because if he's a starter, we don't know if he's playing because they should bench Mahomes. They don't need to play him in this game. But if they do throw out Wentz has always been a mobile quarterback. His last start, he had freaking 17 rushing attempts against the 49ers at the end of the season last year. Yeah. Put up 26 fantasy points. I think he can put up decent numbers in this offense. I don't think it's going to be exemplary, but he can get you there. I don't want to do Sam Howell because they're playing the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings defense is terrifying. If Drake May is available, I will say, I don't expect him to be roster, but if he is, you get Buffalo, it's going to be up or down, but you could ride with, the upside shot that is Drake May. I think, to your point, Mac Jones is a good matchup. I like that. Cooper Rush, you could do that as well, too. Yeah. So it's not great quarterback, and it really depends what your team is looking for. You're against the top 4 team, so you're going to need a ceiling shot. So I would shoot your shot. I'm not doing the Cleveland DTR. I'm not touching that situation. Yeah. That just sounds like a nightmare. He is awful for fantasy, even though he's mobile. Just cannot sustain it. It's like a much, much worse version of Anthony Richardson. And you know how we feel. I love Anthony Richardson, but it's not going with it. So it's just kind of is what it is at quarterback. This is what it is, right? So
before we finish quarterback, let's just remind everybody: do not do the Kirk Cousins experience. I don't think we have to say this at this point, but it's been 5 straight weeks. Did he throw a touchdown last night? I don't think so, right?
He hit Drake May for a 30-yard bomb. Yeah. Drake May for that. outside of that, he had 70 yards the rest of the game passing. Like, it was abysmal for him.
So good Lord. You can't do Kirk Cousins. It's the Giants. I mean, you should be able to do Kirk Cousins. You should have been able to do him last week. You can't do it. And actually I'm staring at in my 1QB redraft home league, Justin Herbert on the waiver wire Thursday night against Denver.
That's nice.
I'm probably going to leave him there because I have Cooper Rush and Bo Nix, but I got options. I got Drake May. I got, maybe I got Mac Jones like we talked about. So we'll see. I'll probably roll with Cooper Rush because I already have him. But yeah, it's ugly for some of these guys this week.
Well, yeah, and the thing with like Cousins is I don't know why they don't want to bench him at this point because their neutral pass rate, like Hayden Winks shared this data, was 33% yesterday. It was 41% against Minnesota, 38% against the Chargers. They clearly do not trust Kirk Cousins. It's hurting that offense overall. Bijan's still getting there. London got there because of the touchdown. But we saw, like, my dude, Darnell Mooney, was non-factor in this game because of that. So unless they can figure it out with Cousins and keep him upright, like, the game they played earlier, he had, like, 5 touchdowns passing earlier this season. Like, no, we're not getting anything close to that this year. So it just got to wave the white flag for my guy Kirk Cousins. That time is coming to an end. Hopefully next year, maybe he's a little bit more healed and the rest of you can do that. Which
Jesse, quick question on Justin Herbert because I'm looking at him, considering him. I know it's Denver. I don't love the matchup, but he played Tampa last week. Should have smashed QB 17. Yuck. Let me ask you this question about Justin Herbert. How many times this season has he been over 20 fantasy points in 4-point per passing touchdown?
I'd probably say like a handful. I would say maybe like 3. That probably sounds about right.
Yeah. Twice. He did hit 19 and decimal points twice as well. So you can technically say 4 times, but it's technically 2. You could say about 4 times, but technically 2 times above 20. He had a couple 19s. Then it's been abysmal. The last month, 17, 8, 14, and 15 points. It's just there's no upside there. So that's what bothers me, especially against Denver.
Yeah, agreed. It's super rough. You just gotta look elsewhere. Like, not unlike Cousins, he can give you something, but that Denver matchup is tough. Riley Moss is more likely going to be back. Like, I don't want to attack that Denver defense. You saw what they did in the second half against Anthony Richardson. They just put the clamps on him, and it was a nightmare.
Yep.
Herbert's a little bit better, but like he still had Lad last week, and it kind of went shit. So, we'll go from there. Yeah, I think that's a wrap. I think that's a call for Week 16, folks. I'm not super excited about these guys, but there are guys that can play a role. It's mainly quarterbacks and tight ends of like teams that are injured and a couple running backs or maybe Jalen McMillan. But yeah, that's a wrap. We got 2 more weeks of this left, and then we're going on the offseason and focus on Dynasty, all the fun stuff. So hopefully, you guys will get these waiver wire pickups, and we're gonna do rankings, and then hopefully you win your week and you go to the championship, baby. That's what we're here for. That
Just
is what we're
push through.
So
2 more
close.
weeks. Get that championship, boys. We know we're so close. It's tough. You can taste it. But look, Jesse has been saying this all year long and in previous years. It's something that I picked up from him and others certainly. But getting to the fantasy playoffs, that's your skill. Winning in the fantasy playoffs, that is your luck of fantasy football. I mean, I had number 1 team absolutely destroyed, and there's 8 teams in the playoffs. So one team, one plays 8 seed, absolutely destroyed by Goff and Amon-Ra this week by the 8 seed. Saquon and Mixon did absolutely nothing for me. So it is what it is. What are you going to do? You just survive and move on. So good luck to you guys this week, and we're right there with you in the same boat.
Yeah. Good luck, folks. Get those waivers, and we will see you at some point tomorrow or Thursday for rankings. So have a good one. Good luck, folks.